You've all seen me tackle Triton,
This was some of the worst poker I've ever played in my entire life. It's just disastrous.
the highest stakes tournament series in the world. I go for an overbet for 400,000 chips. Big blind 3 bets to 10,500. Turn 8 from outer space. But not like this.
I've never needed a break more in my life. I am at a loss for words.
I'm taking the biggest shot of my life, buying in for $200,000 in the Triton Invitational. And before I know it, I find myself in a situation I've never been in before.
This is absolutely incredible. I couldn't be more nervous and excited to play a 200K Triton Invitational today. Got our table draw last night. We're in. We committed $210,000 to the buy-in. We're in the tournament now. Shout out to everyone that bought action, because I'm not rich enough to have 100% of myself in this. And this is a very special, very prestigious tournament. And not every day do you get to have a special opportunity like this. So I want to throw up. But let's go play poker.
I truly can't iterate just how nervous I am. It's time to shine in the biggest tournament buy-in of my entire life. First deal is underway, and the intention is to set the tone and pace early with extremely aggressive play pre-flop and to just hopefully execute better than everyone else post-flop. And it's a perfect opportunity here with the first hand looking down at ace deuce of clubs on the button. Action folds to the cutoff, he raises to 2,500, and here we go. I put in a 3-bet to 8,500 right off the bat, starting with a 3-bet, and my opponent makes the call. Off to a flop of 9-6-3, 2 clubs. We flop the nut flush draw. Action checks to me, but I don't necessarily think that this is the best flop to bet on all the time. We've got the nut flush draw. We've got a lot of equity. I decided to play a tricky check. The turn is the 10 of spades, bringing in 2 flush draws on board now. And now my opponent throws 7,000 into the middle. This is definitely a board that should hit my opponent more than myself. And here, as played, never folding, just gonna make the call, play a little passively, and the river is the 7 of hearts, another card that doesn't really look great for me as the 3-better. And once my opponent checks, do I really want to bluff off ace high? I don't think my opponent is going to have better ace high here, which is what I'm really trying to fold out if I were to bet. So I check back with just a minimal amount of showdown value, and he shows me ace jack offsuit, which is not a hand I expected, but we're going to lose the first hand to our opponent. Then the very next shuffle, second hand getting dealt in, I pick up another playable hand in queen jack of clubs in the cutoff. Low jack raises 2,500. I decided to just make the call as it's up against an early position raise. We play passively pre-flop here, and the big blind comes along as well. 3 ways to a flop of queen 9 deuce 2 hearts. Action quickly checks over to me here, and sitting with my flopped top pair, much better spot than last hand, I throw 3,000 into the middle. The big blind gets out of the way and folds, but now the low jack who originally raises decides to check raise me to 13,500. Oh my goodness, we're getting put into some tough spots early on. I'm very suspicious of this massive check raise, but we've got top pair. How bad could this possibly be? It's a really good hand, and I'm not going to fold for just this one check raise. I put in the chips for a call, and the turn is now the 4 of hearts. The front door flush gets there. A whole lot of stuff beat me now, and my opponent fires again for 12,000. There's been a lot of times in cash games you've seen me just firing in more money with top pair, but here at this point I'm trying to play my very best. There's a lot on the line here and a lot at stake, but what can I beat with top pair? Can he be bluffing at all? It's a really scary card for my opponent because I can easily have a lot of flushes, and if he's betting the small size, he could easily just have like pocket kings, pocket aces with the heart. A very strong 1-pair hand that beats mine and with more equity. So without a heart in my hand, I decided to just fold and let it go. It feels like a disastrous start though, 2 hands in, and I'm already down from 300,000 chips to 270,000. We've got a long day ahead, and we've got to lock in.
We're like 35 minutes into the tournament. Have I won a pot yet? Absolutely not. Will I win a pot in level 1? Probably not, but that's okay. That's why it's only level 1. Discipline is getting tested today.
With my chip stack bleeding to 255,000, we pick up queens in the cutoff. Legendary JNT, who might be the oldest player in the field, is at my table. He decides to limp in under the gun. Haralabob decides to raise to 3,000 chips from +1, and here I decided on just making the call. We're playing deep stacked, and the JNT limp is something I either want to trap or just be cautious of. But then the player on my left now on the button 3-bets to 15,000, and this is madness because JNT, who limped under the gun, decides now is the perfect time to re-raise to 40,000. Haralabob folds, and now back onto me. My heart is racing. I've got a premium hand, pocket queens. I haven't won a hand so far in level 1 of this tournament, and are we gonna be able to play an all-in pot now? I can't think of a better time. Maybe there's a chance JNT can have a worse hand, but here I didn't flat and trap pre-flop to let it go now. I decided to isolate JNT and put in another raise, a 5-bet pre-flop to 90,000. Like I said, we're here to play aggressive and we're here to get stacks in. The button takes a long time before making the fold, and up against JNT, this is the oldest player competing at the highest stakes, which I think is extremely impressive. He comes along for a call, and we've got a really big one playing in position. I'm just hoping for no ace, no king on the flop, and it comes 5-3 deuce. And here we are with pocket queens. We already know what we're gonna do. We're trying to get our stack all the way in here, and I don't think we're folding at all. If he's got a better hand than me, then so be it. Good on him, but he checks to me, and I start off with a very small bet of 60,000. It's level 1, hand number 3, and we're already planning to play an all-in pots. My opponent makes the call, he covers my stack, and I've got 101,000 chips left behind. I can't emphasize just how nervous I am, and when the turn comes the queen of clubs, here we go, binking top set. We think we've got the nuts right now, and what's even better is that JNT leads out for 75,000 chips. This is a fist bump spot in a $210,000 buy-in with top sets. I'm all in for potentially one of the biggest pots of my entire life. In level 1, we're all in for 101,000 chips, and my opponent decides to sigh off and make the call for about 27,000 more with pocket nines. And just like that, we have the check mark. My opponent can't win, and we are back. What a comeback from a downfall of the first 2 hands. And here we are up to over 500,000 in chips. And this pot surges me from the bottom of the leaderboards all the way up to 3rd in chips now. What a hot start.
So much for not winning a hand in level 1. What about a freaking double? Oh my god, it's so ridiculous. What a crazy hand. I was just typing out the hand history for the vlog. Oh my god, I don't know what the hell happened. There's a limp, and then a raise, and then a 3-bet, and then I have a limp 4-bet, and then I 5-bet with queens. That's a scary spot, but the turn queen made me feel so good. Here we go.
Feeling a lot of momentum, crossing over the 500,000 chip threshold. We've got another premium, an ace king offsuit now in the small blind. Hijack raises to 2,500. I decide to 3-bet to 13,000 here, and my opponent makes the call. Once again, taking the aggressive action pre-flop. It's a theme you're gonna see throughout the day, but the flop comes 10-8 deuce rainbow. Not the best flop for ace king, but there's a chance my hand could still be ahead, and I want to bet out hands maybe like queen jack that has good equity that we're still ahead of right now. I throw 18,000 into the middle, and here my opponent makes the call, and we are really building a pot now. The turn comes the 3, which is not the best card to see as we don't improve. Sitting with ace king high, it's a little bit of a tricky spot, and I did opt in for a check. We're slowing down, don't really want to build up more of a pot with just ace high, and then my opponent fires 51,000 into the middle, which is a pretty large bet considering he's in position and all that's happened so far. I just let it go with ace king high, and we move on to the next hand. Still in level 2, we've got pocket 6s on the button, a very playable pair, and we're going set mining as there's an under the gun raise at 2,500 plus 1 player makes the call, and I call as well in position. 3 ways the flop comes ace 9 7 rainbow. Not the best board for me, but hey, I've got a pair, and pairs are really hard to make in 2-card no limit hold'em. Action checks to me, and I throw 2,500 into the middle. We get the under the gun opponent to make the call, plus 1 opponent folds. We've got 1 player out of the way, but I definitely don't feel good about it until the 6 on the turn. Oh my goodness, we are sun running hard here, hoping my opponent slow played a really good hand like top pair. My opponent checks once more, and this time we're betting bigger and we're trying to go for value. I throw 10,000 chips into the middle, and guess what? We've got action. It's followed up by another call. We've got another pot building here. Nearly 35,000 chips in the middle, and the river comes the king of diamonds. This is basically a brick, all things considered. And when my opponent checks once more, I've got to assume I have the best hand, and I think we're gonna go for a big sizing. There's a lot of hands here that I have that just might be completely airball bluffing. My opponent also can have really strong hands like ace queen or ace jack. So here I am going for an overbet of 45,000 and snap. When we get the snap call, that feels amazing. I show my hand, and we will win another one. our chip stack going to the moon. We get somewhat lucky on the turn, and it feels like we got the maximum out of this hand. Even though he snap called, maybe he could have called bigger, but here we are, winning another big pot being scooped my way. We started with 300,000. Now we're at, what, 550? Almost 2x starting stack, which is just unbelievable. I just technically made $100,000 in equity. It's so insane. After our break, after every 2 levels, we are into level 3 where the blinds have increased to the 1500 big blind mark, and we go through a little bit of card death, and we've got pocket aces under the gun. Our patience is getting rewarded, and we're definitely getting involved. I raise it up to 3,500, and somehow, some way, we get 4 players to make the call. Hijack, cutoff, small blind, and big blind. We're in here, all 5 of us, to a flop of king, queen, 10, 2 diamonds. This is awful to see with aces. Never fun to play a 5-way pot with the best pair in poker, but here, especially on this board, is quite scary. I decided to check it over, and JNT in the cutoff throws out a bet of 15,000. One by one, everyone folds to me, and I'm not loving the situation, but I know I have to make the call. We've got a lot of good things happening with our hand, and we're gonna see a turn which comes a board pairing king. This is even more scary, as my opponent could have literally any piece of this board. But when I check it to my opponent, he fires out another bet this time, the same bet of 15,000. This seems really weak, but how strong is my read to think it's weak, as aces is only the best one pair, and I don't know if he can call a bigger bet than 15,000 or a raise right now. So I just put in the call. We're gonna see a river, which comes the 6 of diamonds. Even worse, as the front door flush gets there. I can't even think of a hand that I beat right now, but I check, and I quickly see a check back as he shows queen 10 for flop 2 pair, counterfeited on the turn, and pocket aces will hold as we're running good, winning this one. And here comes another break to recap the past 2 levels. All right, we're on second break. Things are going as smoothly as possible. I've been playing a lot of pots, and we're winning a bunch of small ones. Nothing too significant outside the aces hand. I have like a top 10 stack at least. Things are going good. Let's try to keep the momentum up in level 5. Blinds are up to 2,000. We've got over 600,000 chips in my stack, which is 2 starting stacks. And here we go with 5, 6 of diamonds in the low jack. I raise it up to 4,500, and the big blind calls, going to a flop of ace 9, 5, all spades. Bottom pair, we've got a dream. Action checks to me. I decided to go check it back and see a free turn card, which comes a 5. Improving from bottom pair to trips is the most ideal turn card I wanted to see. And even better, my opponent leads out for 6,000 chips. You might think trips is pretty strong. I could raise here for value, but the issue is that we're playing just so deep stacked. I think some passive post flop play right now makes the most sense. I go for a call. The river, it now comes the 8 of hearts, which doesn't change much at all. And now, given the action, my opponent checks, and I just don't think he has a very strong hand. And the issue here with all this action is that I don't know what my opponent can have. I think a lot of the time he's going to have 1 spade holdings that's going to give up, and maybe at a chance of a blue moon he'll have an ace or an 8. But this time I'm gonna throw a pot-sized bet of 24,000 into the middle, and clearly my opponent did not give up on a bluff because he looks like he's in a pretty tough situation. Could I get him to hero call just second or third pair with an 8 or 9? I think it's unlikely as an ace, but he does find a call matching in the chips, and we win another pot. It's just so nice to keep having it today, and given my insane bluffy punting image, this is the tournament to cash in on it by flopping good hands, turning even better ones, and getting paid. But here we go. One of the biggest hands of the night is coming in right now in level 5 of this tournament with 8, 6 of spades in the low jack. I raise it up to 4,500. Cutoff calls, small blind calls, big blind calls, and once again in multi-way, the flop is gin. 9, 7, 5, 2 diamonds. That makes a straight, ladies and gentlemen. That makes the nuts straight with 5 players in the hand, and action checks to me. Unlike with aces before, this is a hand I really want to dump money in, obviously flopping the nuts, and we're gonna try our best to build a pot here. I throw 14,000 into the middle, pretty large size considering there's so many people in the pot, and we get the small blind and the big blind to continue with the call. Multi-way action still continuing. This pot is getting bloated up, and the turn comes the 7. Oh my goodness, this is gross. Board pairing feels pretty bad as we no longer are sitting comfortably with the nuts, but when action checks to me, this is a card that I think my opponents can lead on, and I would imagine that with the flop straight, I still can't be too scared of monsters under the bed running to a full house. I throw 40,000 into the middle. There's a lot of hands I can get value from. There's a lot of draws my hand also needs protection from. And when the small blind folds, we get into the big blind, and Bob decides to check raise me to 106,000 chips. This is scary. Cool thing though is that from the way that my opponent checked on the turn, it just didn't scream like strength. You know, one of those senses that you feel at the table, like a live read or a sense that you get from acknowledging other opponents' postures and movements? Well, I just didn't think that he had it. But this pot is going to be massive, and I have the most disguised straight ever, raising early position with a hand as bad as 8-6. My heart is pumping. I'm feeling the nerves now, and we're gonna make the call, as this could just be a chip lead pot brewing. We're off to the river, hoping it's clean. It's the king of clubs. Oh my goodness, we've got the cleanest river possible. We just need to fade him having a full house. But now on this river, my opponent decides to check. It feels like there's a chance my opponent just gave up on a bluff of some sort, but with about 200,000 chips back, I guess we're going for it. I take one last breath and I just jam. My opponent snap folds so we don't get paid, but my goodness, here we go. We've just become chip leader of the $200,000 buy-in Triton Invitational, and this is the perfect time to announce and tell you guys I'm hosting a 2,500 gold. Password chip lead down in the description below to join. Thank you so much for watching this video. It's exclusively for you guys. Thank you for supporting, and use code Rampage to sign up in the link below. The details are on the screen here, how to join and when the date of this free roll is.
One thing that I did not anticipate happening today was actually being chip leader at all, but this has been a lovely, lovely start to the day. Halfway through the day, actually, it's so sick. I mean, the 8-6 really got my heart pumping. And the fact that the board paired, I flop straight. It's so under-repped, like, it's a little scary.
Now with a commanding chip lead of this tournament, in level 6 we go, blinds have increased, and we've got Jack-9s of spades under the gun. I raise it up to 5,500, and we only get the big blind to defend, so heads up to a flop we go of Queen 10-7-2 clubs. A beautiful flop, as we've got a lot of opportunity to hit the nuts. My opponent checks, and I start off small with a 6,000 chip bet, and we get a call. The turn now comes a 9, which pairs something for me, but definitely not a card that I love seeing. My opponent checks it over, and I decided to check this back with third pair. Let's see a free river card, which is the Bink King of Diamonds. It doesn't end today. My opponent checks once more. How much money can we get from my opponent? I decide to throw 17,000 into the middle, and it puts my opponent into quite the tricky spot, it looks like. Maybe he has 2 pair, maybe he just hit a king and now doesn't want to fold 1 pair, but regardless, he sticks in the money, makes the call, and my jack for a straight is just good enough. Having it over and over and over again feels really nice, especially when you're getting paid. And we're moving right along back into the action with 5-6 of clubs in the cutoff. The under the gun player raises it up to 6,000. This is JNT, and with 5-6 in the cutoff, probably can just fold this hand, but like I said, we're gonna get active pre-flop a lot. I make the call, and the big blind calls as well. 3 ways to a flop of 10-9-7 rainbow. Not a whole lot going on for me besides 2 undercards and 1 gut shot straight draw, but when the big blind checks, under the gun player throws 6,000 into the middle, and I think I have the advantage here facing such a small bet. We're gonna apply a lot of pressure playing deep stack, and we're gonna try our best to get our opponent to fold. I raise it up to 20,000 chips, and luckily we get the big blind out of the way, the main opponent I was afraid of, and when the under the gun opponent makes the call, we are here to battle. We're going to a turn, hoping to just find a way to win this one. It comes a 5. Well, would you look at that? I was bluffing. And now turning bottom pair doesn't feel very nice to be continuing to bluff now. So I decided to check this one back, and we're going to a free river card, which comes a 6. Wow, from 6 high, improving to bottom 2 pair on a 4-lining board. My opponent checks once more, and I think we're gonna go for value. I mean, 2 pair is just extremely unexpected, and like I said, my original thought was that my opponent's weak. So I throw 30,000 in the middle, good enough for a half pot sized bet, and JNT makes the call with Queen 9 of diamonds. His second pair is no good, and I win, getting lucky, going runner 2 pair on this board, and still making some chips. So it feels amazing to just keep getting there getting paid, and we're moving right on to break right after the debrief.
We are starting the stream table now. Maybe I can keep having it. It's very nice to have it. That is my update. Let's hope for the best. Anything can happen.
Should we talk about our new feature table? Ethan Yao, Rampage, is going to be at that one. And he's got a ton of chips. He's actually second on the overall leaderboard. And he probably would have been the chip leader had not Morihan win that big pot against Pavicevic.
I think everyone at home in the YouTube chat excited to see Ethan Yao on the big screen. I'm still a little bit salty. I don't know if you know this. Last time I saw Ethan Yao across the table, he beat me in a pretty big heads-up match. Kind of a career-defining final table for him, win for him. Wasn't great for me. Someone in the chat tried to remind me of that earlier, and I haven't been able to shake it, Randy. I'm a little upset about it. I'm happy for you, Ethan. Really, really happy.
You don't sound very authentic when you say really happy.
I'll work on that.
Into the stream table we go, and what an opportunity to play on stream with the amazing production. Just shout out to the Triton production team, and also being able to see how my opponents are playing their own cards face up as well. So getting involved, the button raises to 6,000, and with ace-5 offsuit, I haven't really been involved with this opponent since the first hand of the tournament. So I haven't seen him play too many pots. I decided to just make the call in the small blind and hoping to just play a smaller pot out of position. Well, the flop comes Jack 7 deuce 2 diamonds, and sitting with the ace of diamonds is a pretty enticing hand to be aggressive here. When my opponent throws 6,000 into the middle, I am sensing more weakness. I just don't know how it is. It just feels like my opponents are throwing small bets with bad hands. So this time I spring into action with a check raise to 20,000. Obviously bluffing. Do I have a plan on what happens on the turn and river? Kind of, not really. We're gonna play it out as it goes. My opponent does make the call though, so it feels like I made a bad read thinking he was weak on this flop. Well, the turn is the ace of hearts. So that's pretty nice. It improves the board to 2 flush draws, and it improves me to top pair, bad kicker. What do we do now? I guess it feels like top pair is good enough to bet. We're gonna go for value, and I throw another small bet, kind of the same size here, to 20,000. If my read is still correct that my opponent is fairly weak, I still want him to continue with as many hands as possible, especially now that I turn top pair. My opponent does make the call, and the river now is the ace of spades. And I think against most opponents here, I should be checking a lot of the time as I have the best bluff catching candidate. But I'm not sure if my specific opponent right now is much of a bluffer, considering he hasn't played many pots today. So I go for some value. Very, very thin, to be honest with you. Do I think a jack can call me off? Hopefully. But I throw 50,000 into the middle.
In a way where a jack is going to want to make a call half the pot, but there's no jack for John. It's just 4-3 high.
I think it's an important spot to just get away the hands over for John.
And we will win another pot with such a good hand. Now let's just keep the momentum going now. With queen jack of clubs in the cutoff, I raise it up to 7,000 into a short stack on the big blind. My opponent defends, and off to a flop we go of 7-6-5 2 clubs. My opponent checks it over to me. This is a beautiful board to see. We've got flush draws, overcards. I throw 7,000, and then my opponent jams it all in. Well, of course, I'm gonna make the call, and we've got a pure flip against 6-4 offsuit. You can literally see I have 50% equity in this hand. So let's try to get our first knockout of the tournament from a short stack and continuing all this momentum going my way.
Spin it up once more. Dodges at the moment. More card to go. And the 10 of spades, running 10s for the double with the pair of 6s.
So we double up our opponents, and we're sitting with about 960,000 chips on the stream table, still chip leading this tournament and cruising despite doubling up Maher. But our 50 minutes in level 7 has come and gone. Up to level 8 we go at the 4K big blind mark, and the undergun player Maher, who I just doubled up, raises to 8,000. Action folds to me on the button with 8-7 offsuit, and like I said, my plan is to play as many pots as possible in position. This is super loose with a call, obviously, but I feel confident in myself. Let's see a flop as everyone else folds. The flop comes ace queen 8, 2 spades on the board now, and this is really interesting as my opponent fires out 7,000 into the middle. Do I think my pair of 8s is the best hand? Absolutely not. But do I think I have enough opportunities to improve, win, or even bluff off my opponent? Yes, and that's what I'm leaning on when I make the call, and we're gonna see a turn card which comes the 4 of spades, and this time my opponent checks, and like I said, I have a lot of options to win this pot. Could I improve my bottom pair into something better? I didn't really on this turn, but can I bluff off my opponent trying to play as well as I possibly can and as aggressive as possible? This is an option that's open for me now. So I turn bottom pair into a bluff and bet 25,000 into the middle, really just trying to get a queen to fold at this point and maybe apply pressure on some ace X holdings. My opponent calls. In the river now comes a deuce, and my opponent checks once more, and I didn't come this far to give up on my bluff. I think my 8 is really good to have as I block 2 pair holdings like ace 8 that would snap call, and I think it's really hard for my opponent to call off 1 pair when I go all in for 62,000 chips, and that is until we run into top 2 pair of ace queen. There we go. I don't think Maher's folding it, and he did not, as we both show our cards. A classic cooler here with my turned bluff bottom pair, running it straight into top 2 pair, and it's our first real misstep of the day, doubling up my opponent once again, giving him piles of chips now. But we got one last hand on the stream table to try and redeem ourselves from our misstep. There's an unbegun raise to 8,000. JNT 3 bets to 25,000, and I just wake up with pocket kings in the small blind. Here, what do I want to do? How big do I want to raise? I just have such a good hand playing out of position. I'm going to charge JNT for it, so I make another raise to 75,000 chips. This pot could rewrite all the wrongs from the previous hand, and JNT comes along for a call, and here we go to a flop of jack, 9, deuce, 2 spades. What a flop this is. I'm looking at JNT's stack. It looks like we've got about a pot-sized bet behind, and I'm trying to figure out what the best course of action is. On a flop like this, jack and 9, pretty connected. There's spades as well that I don't have any of. There's a lot of turn cards that's a little scary to get all the money in, so I'm trying to make the maximum, and with 2 kings in my hand, it feels like JNT won't have ace king as much, and if he's weighted towards pocket pairs, I think he'll call it off an all-in jam, and that's exactly what I do. I stick in all the chips, and it just feels a little unlucky for my opponent to be sitting here with ace king. Of course, I don't think ace king is going to be able to call an all-in, and sadly, he does not. So I don't get paid, but it is a very nice way to make some chips back after the blunder previously.
Mini little mishaps. We played 2 levels here at the stream table. A lot of fun, but I made one little oopsie with a little bluff with 8-7 offsuit. Didn't work out, but I still have the same amount of chips before. I was able to build back up. But a fun time playing the stream table. We have 2 more levels left for the end of day 1.
Now that we're off the stream table, we are back in action after a break. In level 9 we go with ace-5 of diamonds in the small blind. There's an unbegun raise to 10,000, and we are getting active with the chip lead. I 3-bet to 40,000 in this spot, and my opponent makes the call. A little bit dicey 3-betting the unbegun opponent, but we've got a pretty fun hand, and it comes 7, 5, 3, 2 spades. This is a board where I don't think I'm going to be betting a whole lot, as it doesn't really interact me, while also if I turn an ace, I could cooler my 2 pair into his top pair. So I opted for a check, and my opponent checks back. The turn comes the jack of hearts. This is really not a fun board for me now. I check once more with my pair of 5s, and my opponent checks again. The river comes the deuce of spades, and I don't see any reason to continue firing any money into this pot. I check once more, my opponent checks back. Ace-5 going to be the winner as I win a 3-bet pot here. There was a lot of passive play on this post flop, but just showing more good news, more chips being pushed my direction. But we are always on the prowl to try and find opportunities to get chips, and this time with king 6 of spades in the hijack, I raise it up to 11,000. The button makes the call, small blind folds, but now onto the big blind who 3-bets to 40,000 chips. Here we go. We're getting involved into another 3-bet pot. With the button left to play behind me, I think this hand might fold sometimes, but I'm sticky. We're here to battle. We're here to play aggressive. I make the call, and the button calls as well. We're off to a flop of 6-4 deuce, which is top pair. A pair of 6s doesn't feel amazing to be in this spot, but definitely an unfoldable hand right now. My opponent fires 55,000 into the middle. And here we go. This might just be another massive pot. I'm going nowhere, at least right now, with top pair. I make the call, and luckily the button folds as he didn't have a whole lot. Well, the turn comes another deuce. So this, I think, should favor my opponent. He might have a lot of bluffs that can contain ace deuce, or he could just have a normal pocket pair hand that crushes mine now. Hands like tens or jacks are going to be way ahead against me, and when he fires out 80,000 this time, I'm a little bit confused on what to do. This is a pretty small bet considering the size of the pot, but it's a lot of chips that's being risked now as the tournament is getting into the middling stages of the day. But against 1/3 pot size bet, there's no way I'm folding just yet. I make the call and try to evaluate on the river, and it comes another 6. Oh my goodness, this is just incredible. I was hoping for a beautiful moment like this, where now we went from difficult decisions on the flop and turn to a beautiful snap call if my opponent were to be all in. And now I'm just waiting on what he wants to do. He takes his time, he uses more time, and we're just praying and trying to channel. Go all in, Haralabob. Go all in, and it works because he announces all in for 244,000 chips, and I speed him into the pot. Snap call this bet, show my king 6 for a full house, and it beats his ace king for just ace high. This was a pretty heroic bluff by Haralabob. To be fair, if I did not river a full house, this jam might have worked out, but unlucky for him, I get there with my full house, 6s full of deuces, and we win a massive, massive pot.
And might I say that this is a really good reminder that I'm going to give away 0.25%, 1% of my exact, equity in this tournament to one person that has used my name Rampage on this site. Club WPT Gold.
Our chip stack is ballooning and growing, and we're trying to get even more with King Jack offsuit in the hijack. We raise up to 11,000 and get the big blind in this hand to make the call. Off to a flop of Jack 4-3, all clubs. Once again, top pair, King high flush draw. We've got the world. My opponent checks, and I throw 7,000 into the middle. She makes the call, and we're going to a turn which comes a deuce. This is definitely a card that I feel like I would check on a lot, but given my hand strength and just how much equity I have, there's no way I'm checking. So I throw 22,000 into the middle, more bets for value. You're not seeing a whole lot of bluffs from me today, which is incredible. And once again, it gets called. And the river just improves me once more to a king of top 2 pair. It's a beautiful sight to see, and now I can easily and comfortably go for 3 streets of value. Once again, facing a check, I throw 70,000 into the middle now. It's a pretty large bet, nearly 75% pot, and now my opponent goes into the tank forever. My opponent asks me to show during their tank. Can I just tell her? You'll see it on the vlog, which you can see now if you're watching this, Diana. But at the end of the day, my opponent makes a disciplined fold, and we win another pot. But we could have gotten paid, but I'm not going to get greedy. I'm sitting here with piles of chips, and all of my situations in this tournament could not be going any better. We're entering the last level of the night, level 10. Can we finish this off strong with all the momentum? With about 1.5 million chips in my stack, I've got 6-4 offsuit in the big blind. The hijack JNT raises to 12,000. Here we go, making the call. Happy to see a flop for just one more big blind, and it comes 9-9-5, 2 spades. This doesn't really do much for me, but action quickly goes check, check, and we're going to a turn which comes another 5. We're sitting with 6 high, everyone. This is not a whole lot for me now, and I just check hoping to just fold on the turn, but my opponent checks back once more, and the river is now a 7. What do we do here? With 6 high, I could represent having some value, and it's very clear my opponent either just has ace, king, queen high, and I'm trying to just apply all the pressure to him. If he has ace high, he probably won't be folding, but I think I can put king or queen high into tough spots, and I just had to go all in for 76,000 chips, nearly a 2x pot jam. He snap calls. Oh my goodness, this is a disaster. And he has king 8 offsuit. Thinking that I could fold JNT out of king high was a real misstep, as it seems like he just knew what I had. Everyone else at the table is pretty surprised and quite impressed by the snap call versus king high, but my chip stack takes a little bit of a hit here, down to 1.3 million, but still good enough for the chip lead after this pot. It gets announced that it's the last hand of the night, and we get an opportunity to play this in the big blind with 6 deuce of hearts. Cutoff raises to 12,000. I decide to call and see a flop, one last chance to battle it out, and the flop comes king 6-3 2 spades. I check it to my opponent with middle pair, and he throws 11,000 into the middle. Don't think I have a whole lot of options to do here. Maybe maybe sometimes I could check raise as a bluff. It seems a little bit too much of a reach. I decided to come along for a call. Well, the turn is the deuce of spades, which is pretty interesting. Now improving to 2 pair, but we do lose the flushes, I guess. I check once more, and my opponent fires 32,000 into the middle. It's a pretty hefty bet. It's one I'm definitely not going to fold 2 pair against, but we are building up the pot once more. Let's see a river card. I'm hoping it's clean so we can just win another big pot, and it comes the 4 of spades. What in the world is that? When I asked for clean, I did not ask for the worst card possible to see. With just 2 pair, this feels awful, and now my opponent fires once more. A big size to 78,000 chips. I mean, it's the last pot of the night. Do I really want to hero this off? No way. I just kind of give this hand a little bit of a funeral as I'm quite sad of the run out, but we've gotten very lucky today, and I let my cards go, chipping down once more to 1.25 million chips, but that still gives me the #1 spot as chip leader of the Triton Invitational at the end of day 1.
This is absolutely incredible to be bagging chip lead of this very prestigious tournament, biggest bind of my entire life. Shout out to everyone that bought action, all my close friends, all 20 of you guys that bought action to this. Let's freaking go. 1 bullet is already a dream. Bagging 4 starting stacks, even more of a dream. Got a fun day of poker ahead tomorrow, hopefully. Keep this up. Good morning. Welcome to day 2 of the 200K. It's what, 11:30 right now? We start in 30 minutes. I need coffee. This is crazy. Good morning. We're starting day 2 on the stream table, so it'll be a fun 2 hours. Good morning, Lizzie.
Good morning.
Hello.
Huh?
How crazy is that? This is a $200,000 buy-in. What's going on today? How did they let me get all the chips? So silly.
With late reg closing and a prize pool confirmed of over $36 million and first place being $6.37 million, we've got the chip lead to start off day 2, and we're on the stream table. What a beautiful time to build off of amazing momentum the first day, and let's keep getting some chips. We've got pocket 10s in the first hand in the low jack and raise it up to 17,000. Then the player in the cutoff, Paul Foy, the co-founder of Triton himself, what an absolute legend to be on the table and play against, makes the call, and so does the big blind. Off to a flop of 4-3 deuce, and this seems like a pretty good flop for me with my overpair, but I check to Paul, who's in position, and he fires out 21,000. The big blind folds, and onto me here. I never would have expected Paul to have such a strong hand like this. I think he's got some overpairs, but worse than pocket 10s, I decided to go for a check raise to 70,000. It's a very safe flop for me unless he flopped some sort of a set for the most part. I think I definitely need some protection against overcards. But Paul comes along for a call, and the turn ace comes on the board. In my head, this is a disastrous card to see, as he has a lot of 2 pair plus holdings now. If he had ace 4, ace 3, ace deuce, he's never going to be folding first check raise, and those just improve to 2 pair. I check it over to him, and my opponent decides to check this back, and we're going to a river 4. And now on this pace, I think I can get value against 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s. A lot of hands that can call a small bet. So I decided to lead out for 65,000. And now on to Paul. You know what he's got, but I don't. This guy's got a monster. Slow playing aces pre-flop and finding a full house on this river card. He goes for a massive raise to 290,000. And I'm just so confused. What is happening? How can he have it? At the end of the day, I believe him. Pocket 10s just isn't too strong of a hand to bluff catch here at this spot, but very tricky play by Paul, and he just has aces, which is a hand I didn't expect. Chipping down versus Paul is the dream start I hope for, but I still have 1 million chips and plenty of opportunity to make up for losing this hand. Moving on to level 12, blinds are up to 10K, and we got 1 million chips with pocket queens in early position. I raise it up to 21,000, and let's get back into business and make some chips back with a premium. But surprisingly, we see 3 people to call around. The button, small blind, big blind have no folds, and maybe they just see a player who's bleeding chips and want to take advantage. Multi-way, the flop comes king, deuce, 3, 2 hearts. Not my favorite flop in the world, that is for sure. Action checks to the button player who bets 51,000, and this is a really large sizing. Action quickly folds to me, and now I'm in the tank. What in the world is going on? Pocket queens seems really strong, but the strength is diminished once the king exists on the flop. So it's very easy for one of my 3 opponents to have a king, I guess, and I really hate folding hands this strong, but I think the properties of the specific combination of queens makes this worse to continue. So I make a very, very annoying annoying but disciplined fold, and I'm glad to see that the button did have ace king, as I definitely could have just gotten it all in pre-flop against this opponent and lost a lot more chips. So this feature table really isn't going as planned, but moving on to ace jack of spades under the gun, I raised up to 20,000 and action folds to the button player who makes it 65,000. This player has been playing a bit crazy so far, but in this scenario, it feels really hard for him to get too out of line, I don't think. So I just call pre-flop and hoping to win my first significant pot in over 2 hours into this day 2. The flop comes 7-6-6 2 spades. This is a dream spot against a splashy opponent, and I've got 2 overcards and a nut flush draw. Let's try to get him here as he fires 50,000 into the middle. And I just thought all of the available options seemed reasonable to me. I could call and slow play the 50,000 chip bet. I could check raise and try to get it in. I could check raise small, kind of really torn with what is most optimal. And I just thought that the easiest way to play this hand was to start check raising right here and right now. I definitely want to build a pot. I have a strong draw. I've got a lot of good things going for me here, so I make it 180,000. But you can see queen 3 offsuit is not going to make the cut. He folds and will win a pot at least, ending our first 2 levels at the feature table.
We're on first break. Went from 1.25 million. I actually have 1.1 million. I mean, I got saved in the last hand with ace jack suited, but basically it felt like every time I entered a pot, I would lose it, and every time I folded a hand, I would have flop the nuts somehow. It's a long tournament. We are still top 10 in chips. Got room to breathe.
With 1.1 million chips, we move off after break, and we got pocket fives in the hijack. I raise it up to 24,000, and we're once again battling Paul on the button to make the call. Going heads up, the flop comes 6-3 deuce, all spades, so pretty interesting flop as we have a gut shot straight draw, but all spades isn't super comfortable with red fives. I check it to my opponent and he fires 20,000. I think I have a very easy continue, so we're hoping to see a safe turn card, and it comes another deuce. Board is paired. This is very eerily similar to the hand previously where I had pocket 10s versus Paul. I check once more and he throws 75,000 into the middle now. At this point, I'm really torn on how I want to play this hand. I think in theory, it's a very standard call, but against Paul himself, do I think he's bluffing? Do I think I can make an exploitative fold? Not really sure, so I default to just playing normal. I make the call and we've got a really big pot brewing, and there's a lot of river cards I don't want to see. And the river to this time comes the jack of diamonds, which is an overcard. Shouldn't really change a whole lot unless he randomly banked a jack. So I check once more, and now this time he fires out 180,000. And now I'm a little annoyed. Does Paul have it in his bones to fire 3 barrels as a bluff? Certainly capable of doing so, but I don't know if he's necessarily doing it here. My hand is quite strong to bluff catch, but after all this, I just fold and let it go. So we're down, losing a few chips here. Once again, losing a pot to Paul. There's no time to sweat as we pick up pocket jacks in the cutoff with a really strong hand. I raise up to 24,000, and the new player that just sat down to my left on the button decides to 3-bet to 62,000. Here we go. And one thing about this opponent, he sat down, has a little bit of bad breath, so maybe have a chance to knock him out and be able to breathe much better for the rest of this tournament. He's sitting with about 30 big blinds in his stack, and I've got a very clear all-in situation, and he snap calls with ace-queen offsuits. Here we go, our first all-in pot of the day for nearly 700,000 chips in the middle. We've got a flip and the better end of this flip, and he flops a queen. Oh my goodness, this is so painful. One of the highest equity hands that I've ever played in this entire tournament comes down to a flip, and the queen crushes my soul as he's going to win this one.
That was probably one of the biggest flips I've ever played in my entire life, considering the 200k buy-in. He had roughly starting stack, let's just say 100k equity in each stack, and it's a 200k flip. Sad to lose it.
There's no time to give up as we're progressing to level 14 at the 15k big blind mark, and we've got 580,000 chips. We're trying to crawl back with 5-6 of spades in the cutoff. I raise up to 35,000, and only the button who I just doubled up makes the call to my left. We're playing out of position here, and the flop comes king, queen, 10, rainbow. What an awful flop for 6 high. Expecting to just completely shut down and move on from this hand. Action goes check, check, and we see some rope on the turn 4 of hearts. Brings in a backdoor flush draw. I mean, this doesn't really complete a whole lot to me, but I think I have really good properties to start bluffing after he checks back. I throw 75,000 into the middle. Can really just get hands like 8s and 7s to fold. Even 9 starts feeling pretty bad about their situation, but my opponent opponent comes along for a call. And now off to a river, which comes an ace. And in my shoes here on this river card, it feels like one of the best cards to see. Sure, my opponent can have a jack sometimes, but I just don't think this is the kind of player that's going to flop queen jack and just check it here. I just find it really unlikely he's not going to bet a pair plus straight draw. So for that reason, expecting him to have no straights when we get to this spot, I throw 180,000 into the middle, really just targeting one pair holdings. Anything to fold because I've only got 6 high, but he ends up flicking in a call, which is just a disaster. He flops 2 pair and gets sticky with it and ends up beating me in this massive pot. Not only was me doubling up this opponent not enough, but now he's got to take more chips too, from 1 million all the way down to 300,000 chips in just 2 hands. Like this is crushing. What once was a day filled of dreams and allure of being chip leader of this prestigious tournament ends in this. This is not how I want to go down, and I'm going to continue fighting with 8-3 of hearts in the big blind with the next playable hand. The button raises to 30,000, and I'm here to fight. I'm here to crawl back. I make the call. Going to a flop of 9-7-5 rainbow, we've got a straight draw and some opportunities. I check it to my opponent, and he decides to check back. Well, the turn comes the jack of clubs, bringing a backdoor flush draw, and instead of being aggressive and betting, I decided to take the passive route and check once more. And we get to see a free river card where my opponent checks again, and it comes up bink 10. We've hit the 4-liner to a straight, and it's our time to make a little bit of chips back and get a rebate from our bad bluff. I throw 60,000 into the middle. It looks like I'm tilted. I mean, you can literally see it on my face. I am tilted. I'm tilted. I just lost 2/3 of my chip stack in just 2 hands. But will this tilt or look of tilt make my opponent call? He's in the tank, he's thinking about it for a while, and looking at the footage, I do look upset. And at the end of the day, he does put in a call, and I show the 8 for a straight, and we're grinding a little back here. This is all the momentum I needed to remind myself. I'm still in this tournament, I won't give up, and will continue to fight and get more chips.
Just so disappointed in myself at torching it again. Okay, 15 minutes. I need this break. It's so bad. It's outrageous. I have no chips. It's such a disaster. Need to just speak to nobody and walk around. Happy to be here, grateful for the opportunity. Sun is shining. What a beautiful place this is in Montenegro. Oh my goodness, it's amazing.
After break, we get the disastrous news of our table breaking, and we move into the big blind at the next table, which is full of crushers. We've got Alex Ponikovs, Alex Kulev, and Anatoly, who knocked me out in 2 different tournaments at my table, along with Daniel Dvoris. This table is stacked, and with 42 players left in the tournament now, I've been blinding down. 23 players make it in the money for a min cash for over $300,000, and we're down to 225,000 chips, and I peeled Jack 10 offsuit in the cutoff. This feels extremely fringe, but for 11 big blinds, I close my eyes and go for it and risk my tournament life being all in, and luckily 1 by 1 they all fold, and I survive yet another hand. But the card death is approaching quick. But we're next in the big blind now with an under the gun raise to 40,000. I peel my card slowly. I see an ace followed by an offsuit jack, and this feels like a slam dunk premium hand with just 14 big blinds in my stack. I take my time, and ultimately it's time to commit it. It's scary facing an under the gun raise, but this hand is just too good. So I'm all in, and my opponent goes into the tank. What a beautiful spot. It looks like we're gonna be ahead, or we're gonna be flipping at the very worst. And after some time, I actually think I want my opponent to call, so we have a better chance at doubling up, and then he does. He sticks it in and shows an unbelievable hand. He has ace queen. How did you tank? How is this possible? I was begging for a call at one point during his tank, but now for my tournament life, for $210,000 on the line, can we get lucky here? And I'm drawing very thin. We need a spike of jack, my ace jack versus a dominating ace queen. And when the flop comes absolutely nothing, now what god do we pray to find a jack? On the turn, it doesn't come. And on the river is clean for my opponent. And that is how my $210,000 tournament buy-in comes to an end in the Triton Invitational. It's always a sad day to bust any tournament, but for something as prestigious like this, and the way to end up from chip leader to out without even making in the money, is just heartbreaking overall.
What a disaster. No luck. Looking through my notes and hand histories. Didn't win any hands. I picked up a lot of good hands. That's how you go from chip lead to out and not even to be in the money. Disappointed in myself and everything else. And we try again some other time.